The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
This is The Checkpoints. I'm the author and the host of the show, Elena Gvanjilashvili, and today we will be running a slightly different format, since today's show will be focusing solely on the conference that was organized by the APM terminals and which took place in Shekvetili Paragraph Hotel. Black and Caspian Sea Ports and Shipping is the biggest annual container ports and terminal operations exhibition and conference in the Black and Caspian Sea region. It is symbolic that Georgia has been hosting the conference this year, which turned out to be the year of dealing with the pandemic consequences on the one hand and facing Russia's war in Ukraine on the other. Why it is symbolic will be explained by the end of the show, so it is highly recommended to watch it fully. Both events that I have mentioned, first the pandemic and then Russia's devastating war in Ukraine, have had an immense impact on transit corridors. Russia's war in Ukraine has severely disrupted shipping and air freight. Still, Russian forces are cutting off shipping routes, logistic firms are suspending services, and air freight rates are skyrocketing. Cargo movements are at a standstill as the Ukrainian ports of Odessa and Mariupol are closed, damaged, or under attack. The port of Odessa is Ukraine's largest and a major grain export port. The country is one of the biggest exporters of grains such as wheat, barley, and corn. Russia and Ukraine account for about 29% of the global wheat export market. Mariupol, an important port city and industrial center, is under constant heavy shelling. Freightos air indexes, China to Europe rates climbed more than 80% in late February to more than 11 USD per kilo, with some carriers imposing war risk surcharges. Number of carriers that have suspended services in Russia grow at a stable pace and already make up more than 60% of total ocean freight capacity. The International Chamber of Shipping has warned several times that the supply chain disruptions are said to be worsened by a shortfall in shipping crew due to the war, since Ukrainian and Russian seafarers account for about 14.5% of the global shipping workforce. Even these numbers are enough to see that the Russian invasion of Ukraine means that supply chain disruption, which reached new heights due to the COVID-19 pandemic, may take even longer to alleviate. The war, along with sanctions on companies doing business with Russia, as well as US companies pulling out of Russia, will have long-standing effects on global supply chains and exacerbate global inflation, according to industry experts. But if it may also provide opportunities to address supply chain vulnerabilities. International sanctions on Russia work in the Black and Caspian Sea region seems to be determined to get the utmost out of this situation so that the main goal of the post-war period is achieved, and that's the increased diversification from Russia in all directions, including trade and shipping. In this context, Black and Caspian Sea Ports and Shipping Conference 2022 is perceived to be of practical importance as well, since, among the rest, it also presents the commercial opportunity for 60 exhibitors and sponsors to network directly with the delegates at this major annual international maritime transport exhibition and conference trade event for the wider Black Sea region. Today, Checkpoints is reporting from Shekvetili. We are attending the conference, which is called Black and Caspian Sea Ports and Shipping 2022 conference, which is hosted by APM terminals here in Georgia. It has united almost all the stakeholders of the sector, including from the international organizations, international markets, Kazakhstan, Baku, and also Georgia, including Poti and Batumi. More than 20 speakers will be speaking at the conference, and the main aim is to strengthen the economic resilience through Europe and the Black Sea and Caspian region connectivity, so that during these rough times for the world, there are on the table there are not only challenges but also joint opportunities.
There is some disruption because of the very unfortunate situation in Ukraine, that we are devastated about the development in Ukraine. That will have an impact on the cargo flow. We will see an increase in cargo flow now through Poti, and Poti is ready to handle that cargo flow. The cargo flow is expected to increase, and that is why we have plans for expanding the port.
Yes, and what is happening right behind you? Please explain a little bit. What's this stand for, and what is it waiting for?
So we have all the important stakeholders from basically from Asia through Central Asia, the Caucasus and Georgia in this conference today. So that is shipping lines, we have railway companies, we have logistics companies, we have cargo owners. All those stakeholders can now spend the next 2 days setting up agreements, discuss how can we connect Asia through Central Asia with Poti. And our stand here is to make people aware of the opportunities that lies in creating a seamless transportation through that. Don't forget that when you ship a container from China to Poti over the waterways, it takes typically 8 to 10 weeks. We have run several block trains through Central Asia, across the Caspian Sea and through Caucasus, and that only takes up to 25-30 days. So there's a significant time-wise saving in using this corridor, and there's also a money-wise incentive in using this. It will be, the more cargo we see flowing through the corridor, it will be cheaper to ship cargo, and that will be to the benefit of everyone.
Ports from different parts of Black and Caspian Sea are definitely seeing this opportunity to draw increased volumes of cargo.
We expect from the recent geopolitical events occurring, there will be a need for the middle corridor to be able to absorb all this cargo from the northern corridor, for example, because of the conflicts in the region. And when we meet face to face, we'll have a deeper understanding of the other side's restraints, constraints, or potential. And at the same time, we adjust our own operation and management systems to match their side. The objective is to have a seamless transfer of cargo from east to west, from China to Kyrgyz to Aktau, to Port of Baku, to Poti, across the Black Sea, and to the world market.
A very coordinated work is necessary between the harbor, railway, and there is not only one port. Here we mean Batumi, Poti, Georgian Railway, Port of Baku. Also a new harbor, Govsana, which will also start operating. And that's what we heard on the conference. To have the ability to accommodate not only cargo, but containers as well. And on top of that, of course, port of Aktau and harbors of Kurik and Turkmenbash. No one could have anticipated the current events evolving this way. And of course, harbors have been developing, and Poti has very big plans for further development. However, the demand today is so high that it calls for higher capacities as well. Not everyone is ready for that. Most probably, railways of our partner countries will also participate in this process. And by all means, Poti and Batumi must do their best to meet the demand on increased cargo volumes.
For me, it is a very important conference which show us what is a potential growth in this region, and Black Sea region, Caucasus, Caspian, because this is an alternative route for a Silk Road according to the belt, I mean for the shipping connections. It's a very important route because it is give us a possibility to link the countries which are on this road between China and Europe on the land side. I mean the Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, okay, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and further, let's say, other European countries which are on this route, like Romania, for instance, and finally Poland, which will be a hub for transportation cargo for Scandinavian and in UK regions.
Business has exact numbers on how better connectivity within the Black and Caspian Sea region could boost trade among the countries of the region.
Considering our industry, the global industry worldwide is at its peak. It has never been so under the focus of the world, and it has never been so profitable for the worldwide companies involved in shipping, in international transportation. However, Georgia being what in container business, what we call an outport, it has suffered from this global situation because it is a less profitable area. Therefore, for the first time in many years, Georgia has seen a decrease in volume in 2021, which we are all expecting to rebound very quickly this year.
90% of our exports used to go through Russia, and now with the situation and geopolitical crisis, we are looking for diversifying our export routes, import routes, and essential in this is developing Trans-Caspian route, middle corridor as we call it. And today, tomorrow we'll have a trade mission in Tbilisi, where we brought about 30 Kazakh exporters. You know, trade between Kazakhstan and Georgia last year estimated to be $88 million, but we want to grow it, want to double it, and as for our trade with Turkey is about 4 billion, and with Europe almost 28.9 billion. So the potential is enormous, and trading, I think, is a good way to develop our partnership and cooperation, and we see big opportunities here.
Opportunities, however, don't come without challenges. Need for increased capacity is one. The main challenges also target organizing a unified tariff system and ensuring its efficacy.
There is no time to lose. We'll have to test new approaches as we go, develop everything as we go. Cargo volumes grow substantially, and we have to note here in the first place that the corridor does have the capacity to accommodate increased volumes of cargo because this route was not functioning at its full capacity. So the first freights will go through without problems, without any additional investment into infrastructure. With the help of this cooperation among the countries of the region, we redirect the cargo to avoid bottlenecks where we notice them. However, as I mentioned, the cargo is growing at a quick pace and big volumes, and it will be essential to develop and invest into infrastructure, get rid of trade barriers, solve the problems with crossing borders and tariffs. Of course, it is a very important component. TMT corridor is in the process of negotiating tariffs with its members. Immense work has already been done. Georgia is also part of all these together with Azerbaijan, Turkey and Kazakhstan counterparts, and it's very good. What we also heard today is that there is already an agreement reached, and marine vessels will be moving on the Black Sea to the European ports, Romania and Bulgaria. This means that common tariffs will be set not only till the ports in Georgia, but already to Romania and then beyond. Cargo is enough for everyone, for BTK, for ports in different countries of the region. This should become the basis of cooperation. As for competition, good volumes, accommodating time, etc., will define where cargo goes.
Competition will be there, and it is necessary for further development of this sector and this region.
Competition is good, and what I always say is that definitely the volume going on BTK is not arriving on a Georgian port, it is landing in a Turkish port. However, if it was not landing on a Turkish port, it would have gone somewhere else, not in Georgia, most probably. So it is adding transit in Georgia, which is also revenue for Georgia and an importance for the Georgian corridor. Therefore, for me, the BTK is a very profitable tool for Georgia. Long term, it can also bring the same cargo to Georgia.
Now let's take a brief look at Georgia, as it is represented by a total of 2 ports, Batumi and Poti. In addition to the ports, 2 oil terminals are operating in Gulevi and Supsa. In 2021, the total cargo turnover of ports and terminals amounted to a total of 15.7 million tons, which was 1.2 million tons less compared to 2020. Georgian ports and oil terminals have published the financial report for 2020. The revenues of these companies exceed 700 million lari. Poti Port is the leader in terms of the volume of transported goods, that's around 7.4 million tons, as well as the total turnover of the existing operators exceeding 460 million lari. The main operator of Poti Port is APM Terminals within the Danish Maersk Group. In addition, there are other transport companies operating in Poti that provide transit services for ores, oil, or other products. Poti Port cargo turnover in 2020, 7.4 million tons, down by 13.9%. Batumi Port cargo turnover in 2020, 3.5 million tons, up by 9.4%. Gulevi Terminal cargo turnover in 2020, 1.7 million tons, up by 6%. The operator of the Gulevi Terminal is the Black Sea Terminal Ltd. In 2020, the company's revenue was 55.7 million lari. Sokar is the owner of the company. Supsa Oil Terminal. The Supsa Oil Terminal shipped 4.2 million tons of oil in 2020, up by 13.5%. The owner of the oil terminal is the Georgian Oil and Gas Corporation. Now back to the conference. As the head of Secretariat on Energy Security of OSCE, Daniel Cruz, told the checkpoints, OSCE has worked out specific tools that could be instrumental in both directions to keep close and effective cooperation with the countries of the Black and Caspian Sea region on the one hand, and to maintain competitive advantages on the other. One such tool is bringing the notion of eco-ports and special certificates that could raise competition in corporate responsibility of doing business.
Ecoports is an international best practice standard for environmental management in ports, and it requires ports to look at their environmental management systems that they have in place and what else they could improve. This also includes measuring the carbon footprint of the port. And we are rolling out this certification in countries that are interested. So in Azerbaijan, it's already in place in the port of Baku, but in Aktau and Kurik in Kazakhstan, we're implementing it at the moment. And we also would like to bring it to Georgia, because we believe that green ports is a topic of the future that also will enhance the competitiveness of ports here in Batumi and Poti, and we've had first talks with them and they are interested, and we're looking forward to working with them.
Another tool for more effective cooperation within the Black and Caspian Sea region emphasized by the OSCE is data digitization and exchange.
So we believe that digitalization for this route is a key for making it more attractive, because it can solve so many problems that we currently face. It will make the route faster, more secure and more reliable. And the challenge here is to create really a system that is neutral, if you will, a system, a platform that everyone can connect to with their port community systems, with their IT systems from railways. So this is quite complicated, but we believe that we have an approach that we developed also together with the World Bank, and we call this the platform of platform approach, where people then connect through APIs. So these are interfaces on a common data standard. And we have developed a clickable prototype that we want to try out in the region that we think is a viable option. There are, of course, many different solutions that are suggested from Kazakhstan. There's one trade lens from here. We believe we need a platform where all of these solutions can come together. The big advantage is that it can help European logistics companies to track and trace their cargo. So that means they know where their cargo is in real time at all times. And that obviously is very important for their production and other processes that they have. For instance, if you think about shipping for the automotive industry that is necessary to go into the production process, or certain raw materials like as aluminum or other things that are currently shipped. So that is one aspect. The other aspect that we think is very important is that it helps to optimize resource planning on the route. So if you think about ships traveling through the Caspian Sea, the common platform and digital data exchange would allow them to do pre-arrival clearance. So that means a clearance and the preparation of the ongoing modality of transport, let's say train, etc., before the vessel arrives. And that, of course, provides you with time saving, but also with savings in terms of carbon emissions. So we believe this will be very effective, and this is what the companies and stakeholders that we work with also confirm.
So yes, definitely, 2022 seems to mark the year of both increased cooperation and fair competition within Black Sea and Caspian region. If some countries in the region before doomed Baku-Tbilisi-Kars Railway as the competitor of some transit routes, now most of them believe it's perfect time to view it as a sheer necessity to be able to handle the increased volumes of cargo.
On the territory of Georgia, we have three directions: Baku, Tbilisi, Kars railway direction, that we are basing big hopes on that, and also seaports in Batumi and Poti. And these chains, we have a lot of transport and logistics organizations who are helping us to release our goals. In this context, we welcome those steps taken by the government of Georgia in regards to modernizing transport infrastructure. Development in this direction for us is a very positive signal. We want to increase our cargo volumes 10 times by the end of 2022. That's more than 1,000%. We have to accommodate all the new cargo that's facing this corridor. For that, we, together with our peers from 8 countries of the region, including China, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, Romania, Poland, and Ukraine, all these countries for us are very important, and we are building the logistics chain on this platform.
Could Anaklia port be of added value, especially in this new context on how first the pandemic and now Russia's war in Ukraine have been shaping the global transit routes and shipping landscape? This was our question to the participants of the conference. You will listen to what they have to say in a few minutes right after we get updated on the new proceedings with the Anaklia Port and City project, which is currently being debated in the International Arbitration Court. Our reporter Shotat Gashalashvili talked to Ted Jonas, the project's lawyer.
Hello, Mr. Jonas. Thank you for your time. I'm great, thank you. We have a question to you about the comments from the Minister of Economy. On Friday, Mr. Levan Davitashvili said that government has consultations and communications with different investors who are interested in building an Anaklia port. Mm-hmm. Can you, what are your assessments on these kinds of communications?
Right. Well, a couple of points. First of all, we ourselves, the Anaklia Development Consortium, brought the Georgian government in the fall of 2019 two very good international investors, which they were not interested to work with. one of them rejected outright, and both of them they dissuaded from investing in the project. And then soon after that, they terminated the investment agreement with us. So what they're doing right now is what was happening 3 years ago, and we're 3 years behind. Secondly, since they terminated the investment agreement and put us in a position where some months later we had no other alternative except to start international arbitration cases, as we have told them many times, and as they know themselves, that no reputable investor is going to invest in this project as long as two international arbitration cases are pending regarding the project. And so they can talk to investors, but they will not bring in a reputable or competent investor as long as these arbitration cases are pending. And they know that very well themselves. They've even put the same language in their own state budget for 2021 last year, that when they allocated money for a tender, that the tender may not succeed as long as the arbitration cases were pending, which is absolutely the case. We were working with them, and we were having discussions with the prior Minister of Economy to exactly with the purpose of trying to resolve the dispute with us. And that would be based on bringing in an additional investor. And they cut those discussions off themselves last October. So we are ready now, as we were last year, and at any time to sit down with them and talk and work out a restructuring of the project with a new investor. That is the only way it's going to work for them as long as these arbitration cases are pending. So we are happy to work with them on bringing new investors in. That's the only way it's going to work.
Yes. Also, can you tell us about the arbitration disputes? On what stage those disputes are currently?
So the cases are now at the point where, and I'm not able to give details about the cases, but I think I can say we have filed our claims and evidence in both cases, the Anaklia Development Consortium, and the ball's in the government's court at this point.
Mm-hmm. Also, as you know, currently the transportation sector has gained more importance, and several days ago, even the government of Kazakhstan said that they consider shifting some of their transportation towards the Caspian and Caucasian lines. So, can you tell us if Anaklia was already built, what potential Georgian economy would have gained already?
Huge potential would be realized, and the extremely criminal war in Ukraine and the obstruction of Ukrainian ports, as well as the sanctions on Russia, and which will reduce any traffic going through Novorossiysk on the Russian Black Sea coast, means that Anaklia would have been even far more important right now and gotten far more traffic. So by undermining the Anaklia project, the Georgian government missed not only in a larger or global sense the opportunity to build Anaklia port, but to have it ready now when it is needed to take all of the traffic that Georgia can gain from the current situation in Ukraine and the sanctions against Russia.
Thank you for your answers, Mr. Jonas.
Thanks. Okay, appreciate it. My pleasure.
Just to briefly remind you of the timeline of the Anaklia Port and City project, in 2016, the government awarded the contract to build a new port in Anaklia to a group of international investors, including a US company. In January 2020, the Georgian government terminated the contract with the Anaklia Development Consortium, which was followed by an appeal to the arbitration court by the consortium, as well as one of its investors, Bob Meyer. The Anaklia Development Consortium disputes that the destructive steps taken by the Georgian government have halted the implementation of this infrastructure project, which has caused significant financial losses to the investors. In December 2020, the Minister of Economy, Natia Turnava, then Minister, said that the document of economic justification for the project should be prepared afresh. After the preparation of this document, it was expected to announce a new international tender. In late July 2021, the United States Department of State released a report on Georgia's investment climate, which read, in 2016, the government awarded the contract to build a new port in Anaklia to a group of international investors, including a U.S. company. However, the government terminated its contract with the group of the development of a deep-sea port in 2020. The investor group alleges government actions against the project led to financial difficulties and eventual contract termination. Despite the government's claim that it remains committed to the construction of a deep-sea port in Anaklia, investors and local business leaders doubt that commitment. I would like to leave you with some impression on how the Anaklia Port and City project is being handled by the state at this point. This is why it seems to be symbolic that the country with the biggest potential to play a crucial role in the Black and Caspian Sea region has been hosting the conference 2022. The only question left is, are we ready to explore the potential? We'll meet next Friday. Before that, check us out on bm.g and forbes.g and watch the checkpoints. I'm not allowed in there right now, but it is not necessary to put your feet on the ground where Anaklia port should have been built to remember just a few months ago what U.S. Ambassador to Georgia, Kelly Degnan, said. This is a missed opportunity.
Having just been at the Poti Port Terminal opening on Saturday that PACE has undertaken, they have plans to continue because Poti is an attractive location. After visiting Poti, I went up to Anaklia to take a look at the site there, and it just broke my heart. Because of course, this year, there are supposed to be ships going in and out of that port. It's supposed to be open for business. This year had the project continued as planned. And I think it's a real missed opportunity. We see what Georgia could have put on the table with something as significant as Anaklia, I hope someday will be, in addition to Poti and Batumi. Georgia really would have had something significant to contribute. Now Georgia's got plans on paper.
It is already 2 years that the construction works of Anaklia Port have stopped. What type of time is that? Probably if we look from the reconstruction of Anaklia, which will definitely take place, this is not that much time. But if we look from the standpoint of what economic welfare has lost in terms of time, of course, this is a lot. On the other term, first pandemic, then this Russia's war in Ukraine has changed everything on the logistics landscape. While we were still in discussions whether the cargo would be enough for all the ports on the territory of Georgia and whether the project itself was commercially viable or not, the whole world has changed. So is it competition that we want? It seems it's time for more cooperation.
Unfortunately, we do not have exact information about the stage of development that the Anaklia port project is on. But today's circumstances show us that this development is crucial. What is interesting in the context is that before these three directions developing on the territory of Georgia were considered as competitors, today they are partners, because only through cooperation can we handle the increased volumes of cargo that is directed to our corridor. Volume is enough for everyone, and frankly speaking, we lack infrastructure capacity. We even consider SARPI as one on point of our services, and we believe soon we will have services in SARPI as well.
For me, Anaklia or Kulevi or Poti or Batumi, the importance is the port capacity. So you can have one mega port that is able to serve our industry or 3 middle ports that are able to serve our industry. We will adapt. The importance is the port capacity and the way that the ports can handle our equipment and our needs.
Well, what I can say is we heard today a lot about problems in shipping and shock waves that the current situation is sending through supply chains. And I think it underscores that we need more diversified and robust supply chains. And specifically for Georgia, I think what we heard this morning from Poti, it can actually offer lots of opportunities. We heard about the transports of grain from Central Asia and energy resources as contributions to security aspects for that. I think that can be a very important part for many years to come. I think now the challenge is to, as I mentioned also in my presentation, to make best use of existing resources, but also to think about expansion. And there are certain bottlenecks that are very difficult to address. For instance, the number of vessels that we can use in the Caspian Sea, the number of wagons that we have. I mean, these bottlenecks are not solved overnight. But I think it's important now to put strategic resources into that expansion. And I think Georgia will greatly benefit due to its strategic location on the way, as we heard this morning.
Considering geopolitical circumstances around the regional level, we should analyze the fact and consider the fact that the Central Asian cargo flows and also Chinese and European cargo flows will be definitely interested on the Georgian geoeconomic position, and with the existing infrastructure on maritime directions on the rail part will be essential and vital in order to implement the cargo flow on a smooth operational setup. So having additional capacity on maritime directions, also having additional facilities and increased capabilities on the rail part will be additional leverage in order to have the one-stop shop service within the Georgian territory for those mentioned cargo flows between West Indies and vice versa.
Everything that has been invested in current projects, be it BTK or ports in Batumi and Poti, works done with Caspian Sea ports. This infrastructure gives us the possibility to accommodate the capacity. This proves how strategically important it was to invest in infrastructure. However, the volume of new cargo is much bigger than this. So it is very important to develop this infrastructure even further. It should be a parallel process.
So, Anaklia is also part of strategic thinking, right?
Definitely. Considering the fact that Georgia's port jointly house around 750,000 containers, and this volume till this day has already been overloaded by 70%, it would be very appropriate to have additional capacity in terms of a new port. If we look at the demand at different ports and transit capacities of the countries in the region, international trade opportunities and perspectives, it would be very timely to develop additional port capacities in Georgia. Ports in the Caspian Sea are more or less fit for the increased volumes of cargo on a year-of-year basis. And here in the Black Sea, it would be great to have matching capacities.
This territory is in full ownership of state right now, but I do not have the permission to record it on that territory at this point. I don't know if in this dim and dust you can see the sea over there, but if I fast forward some years, I will remember myself with the camera reporting when there in the deep sea came the ship Athena, which was doing this deep sea works. And it was said back then that one day of such works cost $1 million. The only words that came to mind back then was, "We will build Anaklia."
The Anaklia project is quite large. Several interested investors have talked to the state about this issue. We conducted a detailed study together with a Dutch company that studied Georgian ports because it was important for us to see the overall picture, and we did not focus on just one port. There are some findings, conclusions. We had this product days before the start of the war. Based on this, we prepared an Anaklia development program. This includes several elements, including the issue of arbitration disputes, with regard to which we have to present our positions together with a consulting law firm. Finally, we will implement this project.
The only thing I know for sure, this is not the only trace we should leave on this soil.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.